Technology is reshaping our lives. It dramatically changed the way we live, the way we learn, the way we work, and the way we communicate. Technology has tremendous potential to connect us with one another. But there are still people who remain unreached, disconnected, and deprived of digital opportunities. Tech4ED centers serve as hubs that enable skills training and job opportunities.
We have more than 4,000 registered users, and about 67% are women, and majority composed of students as our beneficiaries. And why women? Because we are gender responsive, so all our programs are aligned with the gender and development program of our province.
Na tutunan ko yung ibang skills na dapat sa ibang schools na dapat per years dapat maano mo lang dito ng mabilisan ng mga months, mga 3 months, makakuha mo lang agad tapos maka-work agad.
This program helped me by finding a job and of course gaining more confidence as well. I was able to gain knowledge about the BPOs, on how does the environment work and how am I going to interact with my future customers before.
As of now, as I was the call center agent, so I see that difference because as of now I'm earning more than I have earned before as a tricycle driver.
As we observe the 18-day campaign to end violence against women or VAW from November 25th to December 12th, we ask you, Lord, to look with kindness upon all of us who are gathered here. Fill our hearts and minds with love, wisdom, and courage as we face our daily lives. We pray for all women and girls who suffer from domestic violence, rape, incest, sexual harassment, trafficking, prostitution, and other forms of violence. May they have the courage to break their silence, find protection, healing, and justice. We pray for the perpetrators of VAW that they may learn to respect women and girls and stop the violence. O loving Father and Mother, send us your Spirit so that everything that we do will be done with love and respect for our fellow humans. Regardless of age, sex, class, ethnicity, and ability, O powerful God, develop in us a high regard for the thoughts, feelings, and experiences of everyone, and bestow on us the capacity to promote, protect, and fulfill the rights of women and girls. Almighty Creator, grant us the strength to stand up against all forms of violence happening to women and girls, the sharpness to recognize a silenced victim of VAW, the courage to speak up against VAW, the resourcefulness to help a victim of VAW, and the resolve to never commit any form of VAW. For all of this, we implore your guidance. Amen.
Noon pa man, malaki na ang naging bahagi ng mga kababaihan sa lipunang Pilipino. Kaisa sila sa marubdob na paghahangad ng kalayaan ng ating lahi. Kabilang sila sa paglinang ng ating makulay na sining at mayamang kultura. Kasapi sila sa pagtataguyod ng mga adhikain ng kapwa mamamayan at sa pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng lipunan. Katuwang sila sa pagtuklas sa mga larangan ng agham at medisina. Kapanalig sila sa pagpapairal ng batas, karapatan at katarungan para sa lahat. Kabahagi sila sa paglilingkod sa bayan at sa pagpapanatili ng demokrasyang Pilipino. Sa paglipas ng panahon, hindi nagmaliw ang kanilang pag-ibig sa ating inang bayan. Mga kababayan, ito ang alay ng mga kababaihang Pilipino para sa bayan. Tumayo po tayong lahat at sabay-sabay nating awitin ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Ayaw magiging pero sa silanganan, hanap ng puso sa gilid mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tulad ka ng pag-ibig sa panlulupin. Di ka masisigil sa lahat ng sa sige at sa langit mong babang. Maginagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawat mo'y nalupay na nagniligid. Tuwing at araw ng kailang pamalimatig. Lumalang araw ng 100 muli natin sa ating mo. Ang higala na pag may makakakit, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Sa kita kapamilya, pag-uligay, mag-ibog, madapat mag-ari sa ating na probinsya. Nagotong kahit sa ano, sa katawagan, mapinalang tao, sa buong natangkuhan natin sa piso, sa kamuswagan, sa sikla tao. Sa ambas ng lang, malihog na ang tandang sa kasama. Ako'y wala may mapigil sa kalulong, nagagalis na nagagalis na ako. Ang matuod na neto sa akin, isa katawagan, mapinalang tao. Sa buong natangkuhan na isang tigiso, sa uswagan, sa sikatao. Mag-uot-uot na neto sa akin, isa katawagan, mapinalang tao. Sa buong natangkuhan na isang tigiso, pag-ulikan, pag-ligayin, pag-igomag, kapag-matwari.
You are now watching NOLITC's Gender and Development Webinars. This is Webinar 9, and for today's topic, we will get to know gender awareness and sensitivity this December 7, 2020, streaming live over YouTube and Facebook. We would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking time off your busy schedules to join us today. My name is Dawn, and I will be your host for this afternoon. The Negros Occidental Language and Information Technology Center, or NOLITC, is the first and only language and ID center in Western Visayas. It is also one of the priority agenda of Governor Eugenio Sebong Lacson under his 7-point priority agenda, Avance Negrense. NOLITC also offers various scholarships for its free online training programs with support of the Provincial Gender and Development Focal Point System. The GAD Webinars is another pioneering project of NOLITC Tech4ED Center that aims to promote relevant ICT-enabled services and content to its unserved and underserved communities. Again, good day to each and everyone. Greetings to our participants from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and to the other parts of the world. Thank you for joining us today. Send the link to your peers and to your colleagues and drop your comments, and let us make this 2-hour session interactive. Let me try to read some of your comments in our chat box or in our comment section. Good afternoon again, and we are so happy to see you again in this another webinar session. Hello to Ma'am Rogeline Villasaran. Good afternoon to you as well. Hi to Angeline Espinosa, watching from Division of Negros Occidental. I believe this is from Department of Education. Hello there. Hi to Miss Lian Cuenca of Sagay City. Justine Togle, one of our trainees from Cadiz City. Good afternoon as well to Sir Christopher Frias and to those from the Guidance Office of Colegio de Santa Ana de Victorias. Hello to all of you. Good afternoon to Ma'am Marisa Baisak, watching live from Baybay City, Leyte, of TSKI Training Institute. Wow, we have reached as far as Leyte. Hi there. Good afternoon to Dides Terreno and Jenison Blanca Flor Hey Hastro. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Hello to Angela Alontaga, one of our trainees from Cadiz City. Hello to Sir Greg from Tabo National High School. Thank you so much for your support. And hi to Neri Padernal of CCS 154 and to all of your classmates who are watching us live today. Hello. And please tell them to join us in this afternoon. Hello to MJ Salipot from Cadiz City as well. And to Denaya Serrano from one of our trainees from Connect Center Services 154 and to your batchmates. Hello there. Of course, we would like to extend a very warm afternoon to the LGU of Barangay San Pedro and to the Women Council and the Women for Progress Association who are still following and watching our webinars. Thank you so much for your support. Hello there to Ma'am Lalex. Hi there again, watching from San Carlos City Children and Women's Affairs Incorporated. Hello and hi. Good afternoon to Irene De La Cruz Landero from Cadiz City. Wow, very supportive. And to all of you who are watching us live today, please do not forget to drop your comments in our comment section. Try to share the links to our Facebook live stream and our YouTube to your friends, your colleagues, co-workers, and even your relatives so that we can all together learn through this webinar. This year, GAD Talks goes virtual with a series of webinars from November to December 2020. Recently, the center has pivoted to online training and conducted various in-demand webinars, such as this one. This is our urgent and most accessible response to the ongoing global pandemic through providing relevant services and facilitating digital inclusiveness of communities. These webinars are absolutely free. To join, all you need to do is register once. If you are not registered yet, please find the link in the description box. The registration is one time only, and after which you will be given the full access to the entire webinar. To participate in our open forum, you will need to post your questions through our online open forum link. Please find the link as well to our description box. We will not be able to catch up with all of your comments because there is a lot of you. So if you have any questions, please post them in the open forum link, not in the chat box. But if you want to participate, we can also entertain your questions there. The moderator will bring them up towards the end of the presentation. Let me remind you as well to fill in the online attendance right now, okay? So the link to the online attendance form is pinned in the comments section. So you won't find it a hard time to look for the online attendance form link. You will also be receiving a certificate for attending this webinar online. Yes, you only need to accomplish the online evaluation form at the end of this webinar. Please do not forget to do that. If you are all catching up with me with some of our opening reminders, thank you so much. And if you are joining us live right now, please comment "I'm here" in the comment section or shout out your greetings, your names, and from which places you come from. We would really love to read your comments. If you have not seen our previous posts yet, kindly follow us in our social media accounts and do not forget to subscribe in our YouTube channel. Let us now start with our session proper. NOLITC continues to deliver relevant and COVID-free training programs through the strong leadership of our Governor Eugenio Jose Bang Lacson. Let us hear his message.
Violence has a myriad of manifestations. It can come from threats, verbal or nonverbal, discrimination, and other menacing gestures. Even silence can be used as a form of violence. As we commemorate this year's 18-day campaign to end violence against women, let us seriously acknowledge that violence against women is one of our pervasive social problems, that this can only be addressed if society will truly admit that all of our desires, hopes for ourselves and our families are universal in nature, and that no interest or well-being of one gender or one class is superior than the other. That the rights of women are human rights and should be accorded due respect, and must be championed, propelled, and strengthened by the government if need be. To Negros Occidental Language and Information Technology Center and the Provincial Gender and Development Focal Point System, thank you and congratulations for hosting this innovative series of webinars aligned with the goal of the 18-day campaign to end VAWC and to promote gender equity, particularly in this time of pandemic. May the good Lord continue to guide and enlighten the path of our cause to end violence against women. Avance, Negrense.
Thank you very much to Governor Lacson. To kick off today's webinar, allow me to introduce to you the Vocational School Administrator and Center Manager of NOLITC Tech4ED Center, who will be also introducing our moderator for this afternoon. It's with pleasure that I introduce to you Dr. Maria Cristina B. Arbicido.
Thank you, Red. Good afternoon to all our viewers via YouTube and Facebook. Once again, we're here to deliver new webinars related to gender and development. Our moderator for today is an advocate for women's and children's rights and was the founder and executive director of Media Advocates for Reproductive Health and Empowerment, or MARHE. It is a group that trained media practitioners in the Visayas on gender sensitivity and reproductive health and rights. She is a PR practitioner and a journalist, having worked for the Manila Times for over a decade and was a contributor to international news. She is a columnist for Digicast Negros with a regular column entitled Perspective, and she also writes for Panay News. She is a mother of two adult sons, Julio and Giancarlo, and a grandma to 7-year-old Ava. Let us all welcome with a virtual applause our moderator for today, Ms. Mate Espina.
Thank you, Tina. And it's a pleasure to be once again be back here as moderator to the engagement, the speaking engagement of a very good friend of mine, which I am very happy to introduce. I think we cannot have a better gender expert as a speaker than our speaker this afternoon. So among her accomplishments are being the regional coordinator of Region 6 in the bottom-up budgeting by the Department of Interior and Local Government from 2014 to 2016, and she's also a member of the Gender and Development Training Team of the National Anti-Poverty Commission, or NOPC, from 2010 to 2016. Among her development work is one that stands out the most is being the executive director of Dawn Foundation from when it was founded in 1990 to the present. As executive director, our speakers steered Dawn's programs on advocacy, education and training, capability building in the last 20 years, and empowerment of women. Among the strategic accomplishments of Dawn is to convene the legislative Advocates for Women in Negros, which drafted and lobbied the passage of the provincial ordinance creating the Provincial Council for Women in 1994. It also co-convened the Bacolod Consortium of women's organizations tasked to lobby for the establishment of the Women's Center, where she served as founding executive director of the center from 1992 to 2004. She trained and set up quick response teams to violence against women and children in 6 barangays here in Bacolod and also in the cities of Escalante and Sipalay in Negros Occidental. They co-convened and conceptualized the Willpower, or the Women in Local Legislation and Leadership for People Empowerment, which is an alliance of elective and non-elective women leaders in the province. They also piloted the project on gender-responsive budgeting, community-based monitoring system in Escalante City, which is now being replicated in Bacolod City with the help of the Angelo King Institute of the De La Salle University. As mentioned by Tina, she mentored MARHE, which is our group, the Media Advocates in Reproductive Health, a group of tri-media practitioners that has been training the journalists in the regions 6, 7, and 8 to be more gender sensitive, with the realization that women's issue will remain mostly at the margins unless women are meaningfully represented in decision-making bodies. Dawn embarked on an electoral politics program in 1995, fielding our speaker as a candidate for city councilor in Bacolod, where she served as councilor for 4 terms. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, I give you my friend and former councilor of Bacolod City, Celia Flor. Celia? Hi.
Hi, Mate.
Hello, it's nice to see you, albeit virtually, and we miss you here in Bacolod.
Yes, and with your very long introduction, I'm getting a little anxious with this webinar. This is my first webinar, an online webinar where I cannot see anyone. It's not an interactive one, and I really am not so comfortable with this. But I really hope that our audience would learn something from this webinar of mine. Actually, I will also be having a webinar tomorrow, a GST for the men. So I hope more men would come out and really look and watch the webinar tomorrow also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Celia. And please, everybody, let's give her a virtual applause. Take the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on gender awareness. This is still part of the 18-day campaign against gender violence. I am glad that the campaign, which we have been doing since the early 1990s, is sustained by these institutions. The province of Negros Occidental and the Provincial Council for Women have always been in the forefront of this advocacy. And I would also like to congratulate and thank the NOLITC and its amazing women and men who continue these advocacies and in more innovative platforms such as this. So even in a pandemic, they cannot be quarantined. So again, welcome to the webinar on gender awareness. And I'm sure that most of you have attended gender trainings before. And I would like to thank you for the sustained interest, because my task is made easier as I wish to further to your knowledge of gender and hopefully add to your deepening understanding of gender issues. More importantly, I hope this helps deepen your sensitivity and responsiveness to these issues. So what is gender awareness? Let us look at the definition. It is the ability to view society from the perspective of gender roles and understand how this affected women's needs in comparison to the needs of men. So actually, this looks more not only at gender roles, but this looks more at relations of both women, between women and men. So if you want to be gender aware, you look at how society relates to women and men. You reflect on how your family raised you up as boys and girls, adolescents, and even as adults. You may also be more observant how institutions influence your way of thinking and behaving as a woman or a man. Or you may also look at how even the various media platforms talk about or present images of women and men. So for the very short training objective, this is to realize how gender roles affect relations of women and men and how this results to gender inequalities. So let's begin with a very simple exercise. I know that this is not, I cannot see your answers, but just answer in your own venue. For example, if you're in the if you're on FB, maybe you can look at the chat box or answer at the chat box. Okay, so I will be flashing images in the next slides, and I would like you to text the first thought you have in mind as to who does what, man or woman. So simple lang, no? Nantawon nyo ang image, ang sa slides, and then answer, who does this? Babae or lalaki? Man or woman? Who cooks? Sinong nagaluto? Man or woman? Who pilots this plane? Man or woman? Just answer within yourself, actually, pwede man. Who uses these tools? There's a saw, a hammer, a pliers, and all other tools. I cannot identify all of them. Man or woman? Who drives this tractor? Man or woman? Your answers would probably conform to society's expectations and norms of what a woman or a man does or can do. For example, who cooks? You must have answered a woman. Who is a construction worker? A man. This is how gender roles work, assigning tasks to one sex over another. As this thinking continues, however, we continue to limit the roles that the sexes can or should do. So even when we know our capacities, we still think of certain norms that society and our mindsets dictate on us. However, if you answered that both woman and man do the work or behavior presented, to me, it is a good indication that you are consciously trying to change mindsets and are gender aware. So really, who does what? Let us look at the following images. So you see both women and men cook. The fact is, men do cook, and some even cook better. Sa amon balay, mas maayong magluto ang amon nga mga hinablos nga lalaki kaysa sa amon. But again, society says women must cook or at least oversee the cooking for the family's meal. Even if we have house help, we, the women, still make sure that meals are prepared and served well for the family. The family expects the beloved nanay to prepare the family's meal. Even when both spouses work outside the home, the women are still expected to do the care work for this. when they do go home from their respective workplaces outside. No? So, even if both are working, pag-abot sa balay, pagdating sa bahay, sino ang mag-aasikaso pa rin ng meals ng family? Yung babae. So I think it would be good to train the children, our children now, for both boys and girls to help out in this work, to let them be aware that these roles are the responsibilities of both boys and girls, man or woman. So you see here, you see a woman and a man piloting the plane. The fact is, there are women pilots. I even rode local planes piloted by women. I believe Cebu Pacific was the first local airline to hire women pilots. But PAL also has women pilots now. However, proportionately, men still dominate the industry. But as more and more barriers to women training in non-traditional work is broken, we will see more women pilots flying the airspace. Incidentally, there have been male airline attendants for a long time now. Attendants were the turf of women before. I also recently heard the news of women astronauts breaking records of time spent in space, and that more women are joining space missions now. So we see here women in construction. I asked a friend of mine from NOLITC of her organization of women in construction, and she said that in the Philippines there is an organization of women in construction. It is called the Association of Women Workers in the Construction Industry, and is even registered with DOLE. They started in 2004, and their numbers are increasing. They are carpenters, plumbers, painters, auto mechanics, and heavy equipment workers, and welders. I guess it just takes training. I understand that TESDA has trainings or carpentry, welding, and other construction-related skills that encourage women to attend. So given the access and opportunity to training, I believe women can. In fact, when I was doing consultancy work with the BUB, or the bottom-up budgeting at the DILG, we got to know women who certified as welders and are now working abroad and getting high salaries. Also, women welders are sought after as they prove to be better and meticulous welders. So here we see the picture in the middle shows even an elderly woman driving the tractor in her farm. Women in the farming industry in the Philippines, however, are still relegated to the more menial work and receiving less than their male counterparts. So we see that if women are given the opportunity and trained to use these vehicles, they too would be paid more and do work faster. Sa I think sa Negros, diri no, sugarcane industry, makita mo mas mahal gid man ang sweldo sang mga drivers sang tractors during harvesting work. Sa mga kababainhan, ang mga babayi are relegated to the more menial job of panghilamon, pag-fertilize, no? So amo na ang difference sang women sa aton diri sa mga sa Negros. Now, who does this? Crying. Man or woman? When I recently showed this image to a staff at work and asked her, who does this? Sinong gumagawa nito? She immediately said, a woman, babae, ma'am. And I asked, why did you think that? She said, di ba ma'am, babae ang palaging umiiyak? And I asked, can men not cry? And she said, sus drama pang iasabat, they do, ma'am, they can cry, but only when they are seriously hurt, as in a very painful breakup from his girlfriend, for example, whom he loved very much. Do drama, no? I again asked, so is it okay for men to cry? Yes, ma'am, sabi niya, but maybe not in public, ma'am, because it would be shameful and that they would be considered bayot, meaning agi or bakla. So, dear audience, I would like to ask you, are men who cry weak? Do you consider men who cry as weak? I hope you say no, as crying is supposed to be a natural thing to do as a reaction to an extreme emotion. So, you see the image of both woman and man crying. Men are said to hold out, ginapunggan nila, no? To hold out crying, more so in public or in front of people, as this would be considered emotional and weak, as if being sad or in pain is being weak, and as if being perceived to be weak is shameful for a boy or man. Nakakahiya daw kung ang lalaki makita in public crying. But all of us do have vulnerable moments and we need to express these emotions. Masakit sa dughan when we suppress our feelings, emotion, even more so when these emotions are extreme, caused by extreme events in our lives. If you really look at it, weakness here is considered a negative and something shameful. So that when women are said to be weak or emotional because they cry a lot, then this is considered a negative value. And this negative value has actually caused to devalue women's worth. So why are boys told they shouldn't cry? No? Kung lalaki gani gahibi, silingan, don't cry. Hindi ka maghibi, kay nano ka, bingit ka. Bingit ka. No? Don't act like such a girl. Boys are often told that it is better to control emotions and to be brave even when they are going through a difficult time. Do you also feel this way? Do you think men who cry are weak? Do you adhere to the idea that men who cry are gay? Bakla? Kawawa naman ng mga lalaki. Because I believe that a good cry is good for our emotional and mental well-being. They suppress their emotions even when they need to, just to maintain their image of being strong and confident, even when they feel they are not. This way, they would not be encouraged to seek help even when they need to. I even have read that this is why average men don't like going to the doctors. They would almost always say they are okay, maintaining their image of being strong and confident. How many of your husbands or male partners are like this? My male partner is like that. When I tell him to have a checkup, he doesn't want to. He says he's good, he's okay, he's strong, he's confident that he is very healthy. He doesn't want help, he doesn't want to go to the doctor. So who has what? Ang tawunta ang characteristics, no? Who has this? Who has vagina? Who has chromosomes na XX? Who has estrogen that is higher than men? Ovaries, uterus. Females have these natural characteristics. Who has this? Who has what? Penis, scrotum, XY chromosomes, testosterone. The men. So men have these characteristics. So question, can both women and men be? Can both have vagina and penis? Unless they have surgery, probably. I don't know. So which is nature and which is cultural? The fact that gender norms can be changed means that it is possible to overcome gender equality. Sex is biological, no? So the difference between both of us is between male and female are the characteristics that I have just shown you. Sex is biological, and that is what you are born with. That is natural. Gender, however, is cultural and can change from culture to culture across time. Culture and its component institutions influences our thinking, behavior, and attitude towards women and men. They tell us that women should be good homemakers, for example, and men should be good providers. While these promote positive behavior for women and men, it again limits each other's personal and public space and therefore limits one's access to opportunities and resources that would make us reach our full potentials. So, do you need a penis to be smart? Do you need a vagina to cook? To be a cook? To be smart? Do you need a penis to be powerful? To be a manager? To be a CAO? Do you need a vagina to do laundry? Do you need a vagina or a penis to be who you want to be? This means that your sex should not be a determinant of who or what you are, nor should it be a hindrance to who or what you want to be and achieve. Okay? So, before we take a break, I would like to show you a short video on how we ourselves, because of time-old traditions and beliefs of our assigned gender roles, have a hard time relieving ourselves of these roles, and that we have to really change our mindsets if we want to have significant changes leading to gender equality. When we talk about equality, by the way, this means not just equality in treatment, but equality of outcomes. So let's take a break. Can I ask NOLITC to show the video now?
Days of leave see men simply aren't taking it. One Swiss retailer reports only 17% of men take what they're due. So we need men to see the reward of taking this time with their family and to feel secure enough to take on their fair share of home involvement. So what's getting in the way? Well, I think our mindsets might be getting in the way. Mine definitely is. So I grew up with amazing parents and a very traditional model. My mom was here. She raised 3 children and she managed the home. And my dad was over here. He made and sold glue. And for me, this was normal. Now fast forward to today, and my husband Peter and I have chosen a different setup. We both work long hours. And several years into our marriage, I realized something. It was 6:30 in the morning, and I was frantically making 4 packed lunches for school, and in my head running through the dentist appointments, the babysitting, and pickups for that week, this invisible burden of project managing family life. And I looked up, and I saw him in the front room, pedaling on his exercise bike, watching a movie. And in that moment, I realized I am recreating my parents' setup. Now, it turns out I'm not alone. In fact, the majority of us still believe women should be responsible for managing the home and raising the children. And the data is staggering. A recent report by the American Sociological Association found 75% of people polled believed women should be doing the home tasks, and 82% said the same about raising children. We know it doesn't need to be this way. We can learn from the younger generation. So the majority of today's 17 to 23-year-old believe parental leave should be equally shared. And this generation, more than any generation before it, cares deeply about work-life balance. So perhaps they'll make different choices. The other group we can learn from are same-sex couples, freed from the traditional gender stereotypes of how to divide the home tasks. They have to discuss it and decide consciously. And what we see is by deciding consciously, so they are more balanced. So we look at dual career couples and we find that 40% of heterosexual couples leave all of the homework to the woman, compared to same-sex couples where only 17% leave everything to one party. So what about you? How do you divide your home responsibilities? Do you decide, or is society deciding for you? It's not just a question of who should be doing these things at home, it's also a question of who's competent to do it. And here, an ingrained belief in society is that of male incompetence. So I'm guilty of this. It sounds like some of you might be too. As a new parent of twins, I would stand watching over my husband while he changed the nappy, and I'd say to him, hey, you missed a bit there, and get that bit. Well, he solved the problem by leaving me to finish the job. And I realized I'm disempowering him. And this view of male incompetence is not only disempowering men, but it isn't helping women either. It's estimated in the UK that women spend on average 3 hours every week just redoing tasks that they think men didn't do well enough. This view of male incompetence is so ingrained in our media. Whether you're watching The Simpsons and you look at Homer Simpson, or you're watching the children's cartoon Peppa Pig, in which Daddy Pig is a bumbling fool. He can't light a barbecue, he can't read a map. In fact, all he does is lie on the sofa watching TV. What message are we sending our children about the role of men in the home? We only need to watch an episode of Mad Men to be reminded of the outrageous biases that women faced in the workplace 50 years ago. Will people look back on us today and see equally outrageous biases against men in the home? We've come such a long way in realizing the barriers women face at work. As we continue working to remove them, let's also remove the barriers that men face outside of work. And perhaps then each of us can choose our place on this spectrum, and regardless of gender, all of us can have it better. Thank you.
Okay. So, how many of us how many of us are guilty? Am I online? So how many of us are guilty that men are incompetent doing work at home, and that we feel guilty when we let the men do the care work at home? Because we have been made to believe that care work in the home is the women's responsibility as good homemakers. When I saw this video, I realized that I too am guilty of this thinking or mindset. When my partner would offer to wash the dishes after meals, for example, I would most of the time hover and look at how he does it. I would look at, sideways and look at how he washes the dishes. I would point out to him the still soapy dish, even as he still has not finished washing. And right on, he would ask if I would like to do the washing instead. I realized that indeed I am disempowering him too, of trying to share in the care responsibilities at home. Okay, can we have a break? We can probably answer some of the questions I see in the chat box right now.
Yes, we actually have several questions already, Celia, no? And it's funny that you can actually relate to the speaker in the video that you showed, and I can just imagine you looking over Toto's shoulder as he washes the dishes. In my case, I just like to comment. I think I probably have been outside of the box because my son Giancarlo, you know him, he is a
Yeah.
chef because probably because they needed to survive since I am not at all ever in the kitchen. So let's go to some of the questions
But I
that
have a
were.
confession to make, Mate. I
Yeah.
actually don't wash the dishes regularly at home in Bacolod. It's here that now, sometimes there was a time we didn't have house help, so we share in the work, cooking. He cooks, I clean the dishes, for example. That's it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day you come home, both of you, so you can cook and wash the dishes for me. Anyway, let's go to the first question sent here.
Yeah.
How important is gender awareness?
Well, as I've said before, if you've listened well to the slides, for example, to the webinar, it is really important for each of us, not only women, but men, to be gender aware, to really look at how relations are between us, no? To really look at how the institutions around us, media, uh, schools, church, everyone, no, everyone around us is actually influencing us on how to behave. So it's really important to be aware of the gender perspectives of how roles are being assigned to us, and well, although it's now changing, but we have to be aware so that we can change for the better, so that we can reach what we aim to reach, that is gender equality among both sexes.
Thank you for that. I think we go back also, no? It reminds me of what Governor Lacson was saying earlier in his message, that at the end of the day, we become a better society if there is no class who is more dominant than the other, meaning we are all equal in all aspects. Here's another question. Why do you think there is still a strong traditional belief about gender? I think it's about gender roles. Why
Yeah,
why do
gender
we why do
roles.
you think we still exist in this society despite the strides supposed to be of the empowering ourselves about
Yes.
gender?
Yes, you would be surprised again, it's already 2020. I, for example, have been in this advocacy work for the past 30 years, since the 1990s, no?
It shows in
And
your
more
age,
so,
Celia.
che. And well, there are improvements to conditions of women. There have been strides in the women's movement, but
Yes.
again, as I've said, these institutions surrounding us still continue to perpetuate the thinking that women should be in this area, men should be in this area, should be in more public spaces, the women should be in the private spaces, So we must break this mindsets. It's actually mindsets. If my thinking is that if the psychologist says 30% of 30% of a mass of people, for example, would believe in something, would change mindsets, maybe then we can achieve gender equality. But again, we are daily bombarded by images of women. For example, if you just watch TV, for example, and you watch the advertisements and you listen to them, telling us women to, you should use this shampoo to make you more beautiful. You should have this lipstick to be more beautiful, and then for us to be, buy this soap product because this would make your laundry whiter than white. So those images, those institutions actually are still telling us and perpetuating this kind of mindsets within us. So it's really up to us, no, as parents, as women, and as women and men friends, as colleagues, even in our everyday lives, to really be conscious of what society tells us to do and break from it. If it is not good for women, then break from that tradition.
I think we also need to be reminded, Sel, that there are societies, no, especially tribes, wherein it's not the men that are the more dominant power, but the women, no. So I think it's, as you said, no, uh, it's all about culture. It's all about what we have grown up with, and again, gender can be your perspective on gender can actually be changed. So and we need to work on that. Here's another question. Do you think the schools need to be more aggressive in trying to educate our young people about gender issues?
Yes, definitely. I remember years ago when we started Dawn Foundation and when we started our advocacies, we actually um, we actually talked and discussed with educators, no, and the DepEd in Negros, for example, on how to change their curriculums for it to become more gender sensitive. Because if we look at that time, even their textbooks showed images of, a family, for example, with a mother and her girl child to be doing housework, no, household chores, while the boys are seen in more active roles. So yes, it really is a must, because as I've said, there are institutions influencing our mindsets, and one main institution that is doing that are the schools, education.
Yes. In fact, if I remember also, I usually give talks gender and sexuality also at NOLITC, and at one time I gave them an activity and I asked them to draw a farm setting, and not one student, both boys and girls, not one drew a picture of a farm with a woman farmer. All the farmers there had even men names on it. So I think, yeah, I think it's very important for the schools to actually introduce gender issues to our young people. Do we have, okay, here's another one. They said it is important for parents to talk to their children about gender issues. The question is, what do you think is the appropriate age to talk about this?
Well, I am not a child psychologist, but I've read, for example, uh, that children can actually absorb and understand what you tell them what you tell them. No? So it's really, I think, how the parent would appreciate their children's appreciation of things. No? If they see that their children can actually understand, then tell it, no, they should talk to it, they should talk to their children about it. The most contentious, for example, topic for with children is sex education, di ba? No? So when is the appropriate age for that, to talk about that? I've read, I am not an expert, no, but I've read that as long as you see that the children understand, even if 3 years old pa lang na siya or 5 years old, pwede mo na maistorya ang bata.
And I think more than the talking, no, Sel, I think it's really how
modeling.
we exemplify.
Modeling.
Yes, no. When they see us doing things gender correctly, then they will just follow. And I think it's being role models to our children. So we'll just reserve some of the questions for later, because I'm pretty sure you still have a lot of subjects to tackle. So please continue with your presentation, and see you in a bit. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mate. Okay. So, where's this? What's happening? Is it projecting? I don't see. What happened? It's not projecting. Okay. So let us proceed to discuss traits that are ascribed to boys and girls. You see here, masculine and feminine traits for women and men. When we were children, our parents would tell us to act feminine when we are girls and masculine when we are boys. Kinanglan hinay-hinay kung babae, kung lalaki, brusko, pwede na. No? When we are boys, we should be strong and brave boys, and girls should be meek and submissive. These ascribed traits lead to norms of descriptions of women and men that in turn actually leads to discrimination. So when masculinity is deemed as a strength and femininity is deemed as weakness, work of more value is given to men, and women are given the work of less value. That is discrimination. Question: will more so-called feminine traits... Oh my God, what happened? So question, will more so-called feminine traits make you a woman? You can have more masculine traits but identify as a woman. So I think you must have answered this, no? Masculine traits. Ang male, si Toto, is ascribed masculine traits, being assertive, strong, dominant, decisive. While Inday, a woman, is ascribed feminine traits, submissive, nurturing, emotional, weak. Men and women have been ascribed with certain traits that are supposedly exclusive for their sex. When you digress from the expected behavior or trait, you are confused. Do hindi ka babae, do hindi ka lalaki. Women should be feminine, meaning submissive, nurturing, emotional, weak. And you should act like this or your gender will be questioned. I know, for example, that just because I don't walk gently, preferring always to wear pants, and not putting on makeup, much less speak gently, even my late mother would say, "Do sa lalaki ka." Question: Are women born feminine? Are men born masculine? Okay. Now let's go to the next slide. So now we change this, no? Si Inday, a woman, has masculine traits of being assertive, strong, dominant, decisive. And Toto, who's the man, has feminine traits, submissive, nurturing, emotional, weak. What do you think? Do these traits apply to both Inday and Toto? Can Inday have masculine traits? Can Toto have feminine traits? So we see that the reality is both women and men have both of these traits. No? Both of us have masculine and feminine traits. So siguro, you may state your feminine and masculine traits. Do may chat box man or wherever you ang venue nyo to comment. Please, maybe can you state your feminine and masculine traits, or think about your masculine and feminine traits. Just one masculine and one feminine trait. And now I will ask you, if you are a woman, does your masculine trait make you feel less of a woman? And for the men, do you think you are less of a man when you have this feminine trait in you? Dumduman ko when during the 1990s when we were starting the advocacy with Dawn Foundation, sa mga trainings namon, no? Kadamo gid magsiling do ka popular gid to magsiling ay kung lalaki na siya ma'am nga nagapanglaban na siya ambot silingon under desaya na siya, no? But I asked, di kun manglaba ang lalaki gakadula iya pagkalalaki? Kung ako magpantalon, hindi ko tamad ako lipstick, gakadula ang akong pagkababayi, pagkababayi ko, do hindi man, no? A majority of behavioral scientists agree that gender roles are not inborn, they are learned. This is what we call socialization, no? The process of learning and internalizing culturally approved ways of thinking, feeling, behaving according to one's gender is called gender. Sorry. This. Gender socialization. Learning of gender roles begin in the early stages of childhood. I believe you have heard or seen parents who prepare babies' clothes and other baby accessories according to their baby's expected sex from their ultrasound, no? Pagkakita nga babayi, ay, mangita na siya dahil sa mga pink themed na room, pink na bayo, pink clothes, pink will be the color of the day. When a baby boy is expected, blue will dominate the color code. This coding starts with the clothes and then the toys. Dolls for girls, although sa una sang gamay ko, di kuya maghampang doll daw sa di ko namian. Trucks for boys. Kitchen sets for girls. Naghampang ko sina. Kitchen sets for girls. Carpentry sets for boys. And to add to the masculine trait of being strong, aggressive, toy guns are a happy surprise, no? Antagid toy gun ng aton kabataan nga lalaki para mangin macho kuno. Okay. So who told us to behave and think this way? These are the influencers, or what we call the socializing institutions. Who are these? The first institution that influences our way of thinking and behaving is the institution closest to us, our very own family. The family has learned from the traditions of society, and of course, it hands down to us what they think is appropriate behavior for us. So from birth to our early childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, our families dictate to us our way of thinking, behavior, and attitudes towards women and men, girls and boys. So when a father chastises his boy child who runs home crying because he was hit by a playmate, the father tells him not to cry, as he is a boy, and even questions his child's identity. Ano ka, agi? Well, one time I really was, quite angry with my nephew because ang iya nga anak nga lalaki nagpauli gahibi, no? Kaya actually nag-away to sa sang balay, ginsumbag to siya or something. Tiga sabat ginhambalan niya gid ya tuod nga, uy, ang hibi ka, ano ka agi, balik ka to kag sumbagaman, you know? So that's not the way to teach our children dapat, no? So this also teaches our children to fight back violence with violence. No wonder violence against women persists. The good news is that more and more families are questioning those limiting traditional rules and choose not to follow. Instead, they make informed decisions on how to raise their children in ways that would allow them to achieve their full potentials, whether they are girls or boys. So thank you to these families, no, who are somehow gender aware and really, teach their children, both girls and boys, that they can be whatever they want to be for as long as they study for it, for as long as they train for it, no? Okay. The church, kabudlay sini sang church, no? This is one institution which actually really influences our way of thinking also. What does the church supposedly say about women? There is a quote in the Bible, no? It says, "Wives, submit to your husbands." This simple admonition has been used by people and society to actually subjugate women over time. I believe that this has contributed to the subordination of women. In truth, however, the Bible passage, when read in full, is followed with the instruction, "Husbands, love your wife as you would love yourself," or in other texts, "as Christ loved the church." What does this say to you? To me, it means to love yourself is to respect yourself. To love yourself is to be kind to yourself. To love yourself is not to inflict pain to yourself. And to love yourself is not to violate yourself. So when the Bible actually tells us to be kind to your wives, to not inflict pain to your wives, spouses, and not violate the rights of your partner, and to respect your wife. I hope that less and less people would shortcut this passage and not use this to abuse power over women. School, no? Kaina may pamangkot dito. Should we be aggressive in teaching gender in schools? Yes, I believe so, because it really is one influential institution that influences our way of thinking about how women and men relate to each other, how our boys and girls, student boys and girls, should behave. There is traditional gender roles for girls and boys are reflected in images of school reference books. One time, meron akong lawyer friend, no, sa Manila. And she was complaining because, you know, a reference book ng kanyang daughter asked what are the correct roles of a mother and a father. And when her daughter answered that the mother works outside the home because her mother does work outside the home, the daughter got a mistake in her score. Wrong daw, sabi ng teacher, because it should be the man or the husband who should be working outside of the home. No? So, you know, I don't know, teachers should really be trained on gender sensitivity. It really is a must for teachers to be gender sensitive and gender responsive, to also be models to their students. No? But the good thing is there is now even less gender tracking for courses that are deemed as appropriate for women or men. Sa una, magsiling gani, maano ko man, kung babae siya, masilingid ang parents, nurse ka lang or maestra ka lang, kay babae ka. Kung lalaki gani, kinala ma-engineer ka gid, or ma-doktor ka, no? Or ma-abogado ka. As if women cannot be engineers, lawyers, and doctors. But again, now, there are now more male nurses, more women engineers, and doctors, no? So, actually, that is one result also of the advocacies that the women's movement have done. No, more women are now entering into courses and professions which were before the turf of men, and even men are now doing professional work in the turf of women without being understood as, you know, as gay, for example. Media, no? Si Mate, ang moderator natin is a media person. Media, no? So how women are portrayed in different forms of media. They are, you know, as martyrs sa mga sine, victims, submissive. But nalipay ko because actually there are already movies, no, even Filipino movies who have more yung mga younger naton nga mga actors, for example, they are presented and imaged as more, you know, more women with power, decisive, knows how to think, no? Hindi na sila martir, victims, or mga tanga. Sa una, kadamo sang, you know, they are more innocent. More actors now have characters, mga babae nga actors have very good characters, no? They are now, you know, confident women, able to decide for themselves, able to think for themselves, even in the movies. So that should be, no? That should be sustained. But again, kung ang tawon naton, we only have to watch several advertisements in television, and we see how women are still relegated to much of the care work at home, even when they have work outside of the home. Almost all advertisements for laundry soaps, cooking ingredients, shows and targets women consumers. Several years ago, ads were already making headway in portraying non-traditional roles for women and men. But then again, there seems to be a reversal to the old traditional portrayal of gender roles. Maybe there is again a need to gender sensitize media and advertising people. No? I know, for example, for a fact, when we started Dawn Foundation in the 1990s, no, there were so many gender sensitive trainings for advertisers, for women and men in the media. And for a while, for a time, there were, you know, changes, there were improvements in advertisements, no? But again, as I've said, if you notice right now, nagabalik na naman ang pag-portray sa kabainhan in more traditional roles, no, sa advertisements. I hope they change that. law or the state, laws that disenfranchise women, laws, policies that still discriminate women. Do you know, for example, that Filipino women were allowed to vote only in 1918? So we have to thank our women suffragettes who fought for our right to vote. Sa una, hindi pwede ka-vote ang babayi, lalaki lang gid ang maka-vote, no? But with the lobbying also and the fight of the women's movement, we now earn the right to vote. With the women's research and consistent advocacy, there are now laws which not only protect, but more significantly, empower women in different spheres and let fight against gender-based violence. Still, there are many laws that have to be passed, and it will probably take more congresses. No? This is now the 18th Congress to pass them. The Philippine Commission on Women, together with the National Anti-Poverty Council of the Women's Council of the NAPC, and other women groups across the country, are now pushing for the women's priority legislative agenda in this Congress and in the next Congresses. So there is still much work to do. No? If you want to know about the priority legislative agenda, I think divorce is one. You can look it up in the website of the PCW or the Philippine Commission on Women. So why do we need to know this, no? Kaina namangkot, why is gender awareness important? Because we have to understand about the problem of gender role and socialization that has led to gender bias. And when we do not question and challenge it, it perpetuates the inequalities brought about by the biases. We cannot solve a problem when you cannot define it. Okay, so what is gender bias? These are beliefs, perceptions, practices, values, rules, attitudes, and structural arrangements that favor one sex, usually the man, over the other, mostly the woman, not on the basis of individual merits, but on what society recognizes as having greater value. And in our experience, it is the male roles that are given male value. Their work is given more pay. For example, have you noticed that even as women are considered as the predominant cooks at home, which are, by the way, unpaid and not recognized in the country's GDP or gross domestic product, the men who work as cooks outside are recognized as chefs and are highly paid. When women do community work, these are understood to be voluntary and therefore unpaid. Mga ma-struggled na no? Mga church workers, mga kababainhan, more voluntary work, damo na sang multiple burden sila. But when men decide to do community work, it is mostly in the sphere of politics and involve making decisions and crafting policies, and of course, highly paid. So gender bias is manifested in the following. So from gender bias, because of gender bias, amo ni siya ang mga problema, no? These are the manifestations. Women are marginalized, women are subordinated, women have multiple burden, there is stereotyping, and ang pinaka one very big problem is the violence against women. Marginalization. This is one manifestation of gender bias. It is the process which forces women out into the periphery of economic and social life, on the periphery of decision-making process. Kasimple lang gid, no? Kanang tawon ta, it is, if you look at the book, for example, there is a page And there is the main text, and beside it, yung puti are margins, no? So women are in the margins. Ara siya sagwa sa main economic and social life and decision-making processes, no? Masiling ka mo, ara naman na sila sa decision-making process. Well, if you look at data, for example, even in the recent elections, pila lang ka percent, tanawa bala, pila lang ka babae nga mga senador ang ara sa Senate. Those are, and even sa Congress na to, no? So, these are people who make decisions for us, who decide the budgets of the country, no? So, marginalization also diminishes the value of activities in which women engage and through which they contribute to the national development process. There are organizations and companies who, yes, they have women in their boards, but also because of the low number or proportion of the women, most often they are not listened to. And this is tokenism. Token lang ang pag-represent sa kababainhan sa iban na mga corporation boards, no? Corporate boards. But recently, I have read the news, CNN, the pandemic has somehow brought out some positives, no? I have seen the news of many global big companies who have now committed to putting more, if not half of their boards with women. So that is good news. Marginalization is also the under or non-valuation recognition of women's work. Women have less access to and control over resources and benefits. Well, we would say probably that women now have as much access as the men, no? To resources and benefits. But do they have control as much as the men? That is the question that we have to answer. Marginalization also is linked to unequal pay for work of equal value. Women are last to be hired, first to be fired. And sometimes may ara pagid nga, okay, you can work, but you have to, provide sexual favors. Our vision to take out marginalization, our vision is equal pay for work of equal value, economic independence and economic opportunities, and economic control. No? Economic independence, kadamo sang kababainhan who are victims of violence, for example, in their homes, no? But they do not go out. Why? One reason is that they are not economically independent. Subordination, which is political, no? One sex is considered inferior to the other. Gender subordination is the institutionalized domination by men of women. For example, we are subordinated in position. There are very few women in politics and in top positions. Again, as I've said, in the 2016 elections, only 23.1% are women elected, while 76.9%, that's almost 80% of elected men. Okay. So our vision for subordination, our what we want to have, no, is quality participation in decision making and the recognition of women's capabilities. Multiple burden. So again, we have women involved in 3 spheres of work. No, we have the productive, reproductive, and community work. Most often, the productive work is said to be the turf of men. Productive means productive work is actually work which has income, no, which has money value. While reproductive work is the work that we do at home, the caring for children, the caring for the family, basta care work at home, no? That is reproductive work. And we also have the community work, which is outside of the family, outside of our offices, if we do work outside of the home, and that is mostly voluntary and unpaid, no? So the women do parenting with the men, but we do more of the housework and the community work, and work in the public sphere and even in the informal sector. So multiple, no? We do multiple work, and because we do multiple work, we have multiple burden. Okay. So gender division of labor. Isa pa gid ni siya ka manifestation of the gender bias. It is again the assignment of tasks and roles to men and women on account of sex, no? Home care is still mostly assigned to women and girls, even when they do contribute to the earnings in the family. No? So nag-obra na sagwa, pag-abot sa balay, siya man gyapon mainly ang task to do the care work. Outside the home, men still dominate the workforce. As of 2018, for example, the Philippine Statistics Authority says that labor force participation rate of women is only at 47.6%, while men is at 74.8%. And women still dominate the services and sales sector, no? So again, there is the division of labor. So services, most often, dira ang kababainhan. Our vision for gender division of labor is shared parenting, shared housework, no? So remember the video. So it's not only sometimes, you know, masiling siya nga gabulig man ko, but ang ginabulig nila yung mga magagmay lang, no? Ang mga mabulubudlay nga parenting work, housework, relegated gihapon sa kalalakihan. But again, if we remember the message of the video, we should also give up part of our housemaking role and really let them share in the work, no? Hindi na lang naton sila pag-underestimate, hindi na naton sila pagbantayan kung nagahuga sila pinggan. They should do it. Bahala na, no? And do not attempt to repeat the work that they've done. They should learn how to wash the dishes very well. And yes, they are competent in doing housework. We should think that, as the video said, kinahanglan ang mindset naton. We should also change our mindsets that men also are competent homemakers. Okay. So gender stereotyping. This again, fixed and questioned beliefs or images we carry in the back of our minds, no? So kaina may question dito. Why do you think na sino to may question? Why do you think that there is still this traditional mindset, traditional way of behaving sa subong, no? But it is there, no? It is there. Makita tagid na maski 2020 na, with all the technologies, with all the advocacies that we've done, with all the struggles and successes of the women's movement, still ara pagid gihapon ang aton nga mga gender stereotyping mindsets, no? So as I've said, kinanglan islang tagid ang aton mindsets about women and men, which is transmitted from generation to generation, no? So we can break stereotyping by consciously questioning beliefs and concepts about women and men that discriminate or subordinate one sex, because it is mostly women who are subordinated and discriminated upon. Okay, you look at that, no? Amo na siyang gender stereotypes. Masiling sila, bo, amo ni ang mga brains ang babae, ho, shopping, shopping lobe, musical, sitcom, gossip lobe, mystery, moods, behaviors, fantasy, binges, chocolate cravings, tapos ang male brain niya ko, no? Bawa mo niya ang iyang sulod, ho, sex, lame excuses lobe, power tools lobe, computer fixation lobe. Our brains are not wired this way. We are socially conditioned to think. This is definitely not natural. No? So we change this. We do away with this kind of brains of thinking. Our vision should be liberation from stereotyped images, non-sexist child rearing, and even non-sexist language. No? Because language also influences our way of thinking. Magsiling kitang fisherman, fireman, chairman. Tido lalaki na lang gid ang chairman, ang chair, no? Ang congressman. Ano pa, no? So ilisang tagid ang aton nga language into non-sexist language, so that we also, make women more visible in our language. Amo ni siya ang isa ka problema gihapon, no? Isang manifestation of gender bias, violence against women. These are acts of instilling fear and inflicting pain with the aim to injure or abuse a person, usually women. So, we now have laws that punishes violence against women. We have the Republic Act 9262, the Anti-VAWC Act of 2004. We also have the Magna Carta of Women, which requires barangays, for example, to establish women VAW desk, violence against women desks in their barangays, no, so that victims of violence against women and their children can actually go to the barangay and report, and the violence be addressed. No? So aside from the anti-VAWC, we have the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, the Anti-Rape Law, and the latest is the Safe Spaces Act. I think last Friday, NOLITC has shown a webinar, no? Ang speaker, si Attorney Andrea C. She talked about the Safe Spaces Act. So sexual harassment is no longer confined to workplaces and school in institution-based settings, no? Pwede ka na ma-accuse of sexual harassment even outside of these arenas or venues. So amo ni siya ang mga forms, no, of physical, psychological violence. So even ang jokes, no, most often ang mga jokes bala are sexist, gid na, yeah, sexist jokes, no, and we laugh at them. My God, ang pagpanihol, no, this is actually within in the Safe Spaces Act. Hindi ka na pwede, hindi bala panihulan ng mga baying ng mga nakalakat-lakat sa dalan, no, that is already punishable under the Safe Spaces Act. Okay. So, wolf whistle speaking, chancing. Ba, may kilala ko na sa una, hindi ko na lang paghihambala. Gapang chancing. Sexual harassment, domestic violence, prostitution, commodification. Okay. Our vision is, of course, freedom from violence, freedom from harassment, personhood development, self-esteem, and control over one's body. So when we achieve all of these visions, we can look forward to a gender-fair society where women and men share in the access and control of benefits in all spheres of society, socio-cultural, political, economic spheres. Okay? So now let us watch this video. May I ask the NOLITC to show this video? This video is called The Impossible Dream. It is an award-winning video produced in 1983 with a timeless message. The video takes a wry, humorous look at a problem faced by women everywhere: the double workload of a full-time job and being a housewife. It features an average family with a baby and 2 school-age children. While both parents work outside the home, the woman who puts in the same hours as her husband is paid lesser than the man. In addition, caring for the children and all the household duties remain her responsibility. This was produced by the United Nations, actually. It is somehow a conglomeration of the realities and the experiences of women and families, no, all over the world. So let's watch this video. NOLITC.
Women
Oh,
have better than men.
Impossible Dream. So, after watching the video, simple lang. Will you make it possible? Will you be a champion for this? We champions of gender equality. We often see champions as well-known persons like subong no, si Angel Oxin, si Catriona Gray, etc. Or celebrities or insiders in government or policy-making circles, because they are supposedly in a position to effect change. I believe that most of you here can be champions determined to effect change. You don't need to be celebrities, you just have to be willing to speak to decision makers on our issues and speak up. So, will you be a champion to make the woman's dream possible? Be champions of gender equality. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
That
Celia.
finishes our webinar. Yeah.
We learned a lot from your presentation, and it's sad, no, that although we know that a lot of things have changed, no, especially in the more progressive society, the impossible dream just showed us that too many it is still an unreachable dream, and we hope that someday, if all of us will become gender champions, then we will definitely achieve that dream. So let's go now to the questions that have been posted earlier, but we have not yet answered. And the first is, what do you think is the most effective way to address gender issues in the workplace?
Well, I think, again, I'm reminded before, when we started sa Dawn Foundation, we were doing gender trainings to offices, no, to companies, to schools. So I think it really, di ba may mga ang mga
The
companies, may
Cody
mga
cell, di ba,
HR,
supposed to be?
they have, yeah,
Supposed to
they
be,
have
what happened to the
resource
Cody?
offices, di ba? Dapat mag-conduct gid sila gender trainings. Because it and but also I would like to say that one training, one or two trainings will not make you gender sensitive, no? Sometimes there are even, sad to say, there are even trainers who on gender, no, on women's empowerment, that themselves are not gender sensitive. No, so it really is a, in the workplace kinanglan gid may gender trainings, gender sensitive training. Sa una dogin require ina sa mga companies, but I really hope that companies now would again try to sensitize their workers, no. I have also have read that research has shown that when both women and men are, are gender responsive, and there is more or less equality in equality with both of them, no. Companies thrive better and earn more income, actually, are more productive, because siguro syempre the environment is better, no. Relations are better, so both women and men work for the better of the company.
Okay. So we go to the next question. There are a lot of advocacy groups on gender and development in the country. Do you think Filipinos are more gender sensitive now?
I think so. I think even the men are more aware, no, of their roles now, which kadamo naman, for example, damo naman mga lalaki who are not only supportive but really allies of women, no, in terms of advocacy and in terms of their behavior. Gender sensitive naman ang mga kalalakihan, no. So there are damo na, no, but again, we must continue to support initiatives of institutions, no, also kay, if if we're not so, if we're not so aggressive also in questioning the these influentials among us, wala, hindi mag-prosper, no, ang aton nga advocacies, ang aton nga mindsets. Hindi na lang po, well, you know, the problem right now, the leadership, for example, if we really are to be honest, no, the leadership is
Let's not talk about him.
we will not talk about it. Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, let's just endure. Let's just endure a year and a half more. Anyway, I think that in relation to the previous question, I think the circumstance in our community has also helped, no, in changing the mindset. Because, for example, most women are working abroad, and the parent left behind is the man who has been doing most of the housework. So most probably may mga influences man na siya. Next, we go to the next question. Despite the laws protecting the rights of women, why do you think gender bias still exists?
Again, it is the institution surrounding us which we do not question. Wala kita ga question constantly, no? We do not question constantly. Ginapabayaan ta lang, okay, nandiyan kung si Trump pa, it is what it is. ang aton nga mindset, it is what it is. But it is not what it is, no? We should change something that is not good for us, that is violative of our rights, no? So, yes, there are so many laws. But again, implementation-wise, kulang, no? Hindi sufficient ang implementation. That is probably why. For example, we cannot do away with the leadership, no? When he says, for example, sorry, Tina, sorry, this is a government-sponsored project, but when a leader says shoot them in the vaginas, kami sa NAPSI, for example, we called the office where he is. We called him out, no? And we nag-file kami case against that, no? Sabi niya, rape 3 women and I will take care of you. We filed a case and we won. But is he punished? Wala.
Again, as you said, we are a country of laws, damot-damot ta laws.
Yes.
Even you mentioned earlier, no, damot-damot na ta lawmakers, representatives in Congress that are women, even in the Senate. But how many of them really
Still
work?
Marginalized.
How many of them really work for? And how many of these women
do not work for women?
Yes, do not work for women. I think that's also one question. It's still politics. Next, how can LGUs provide an external assistance to gender-related projects and activities? I think they have.
There's actually the GAD budget, no? That's 5% of the total budget of an LGU, of any agency, government agency, for example. So you just have to be more aggressive in lobbying and in really getting engaged, no? Engage your LGUs, your local government units. Even the barangays have that. They have the GAD budget. You engage them and do not let them bully you into thinking wala ka dilabot, because that is our money, that is our budget. And budgets do programs and projects.
Yeah, but I think you also have to be registered first with the LGU to be able to. You need to be registered.
You just have to be a resident. Registered as a voter?
As an organization.
As an organization, yes. You have to be
because
registered.
these are gender-related projects and activities,
Yes.
diba? So you need to be accredited. Yeah.
There are processes for that.
Yeah. Okay. The Philippines has one of the smallest rates of gender disparity in the world, but why are there marginalized and abused women in the country? Sa image, taguro, though, ano ta?
No, actually, sa gender, sa index, yes, may mga, I don't think so sa rates of gender disparity. For example, the disparity is still big in politics, for example, to 80% to 20% women, di ba? In the gap, gender disparity in pay, for example, it is said, research ang data shows that for every peso earned by the man, the woman only earns about 97 pesos na sa una. Sa unas, those 60, 75 or 65 pesos na to the peso. Ngayon, it is still 1 peso to, correct me, I don't know, I'm not so sure, either 79 or 97 centavos to a peso earned by the man. So, damo gihapon sang gender disparity. We may have been mataas ta sa ranking sa una sang gender index, no? But unfortunately, nagnubo na naman kita right after because of that.
Let's not go into that.
I'm sorry.
Let's not go into that. I think we just, we are at the bottom now because of what's happening.
Well, not really. But lapit na lang sa bottom, yes.
Okay, let's not go into that. Okay, you mentioned earlier also about these celebrities. How do we protect women who openly express their opinions, like in the case of Angel Locsin, Liza Soberano, and Catriona Gray? So they have been red tagged, no, by the military.
Well, we just have to speak up for them. More and more people speak for them, and more people speak against the abuses, against the not so good actions of the leadership or the establishment. We can protect actually by speaking up, Gid. Because makita nyo man, hadlok siya sa mga babae nga naga-speak up.
Yes, and I think it's nice if these women, no, these celebrities will continue to become champions, because they can really influence the masses to in their views and in their ideas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I take out the sorry. I am not sorry.
Huh? Of course,
sorry,
never be sorry.
Yes. Kay Tina lang kung sorry.
Okay. What are the gender issues confronting women during this COVID pandemic?
Oh, well, aside from all those issues, actually, ang violence against women has increased. No, I attended a webinar last week conducted by the Philippine Commission on Women, and there were may data dito on the incidence of violence against women in the country during the time of the pandemic, and actually nag-increase ang mga kaso. Nag-increase ang cases of violence against women. Maybe again because of the stress of everything, no? Although I will not our what you call this, we will not condone violence at any walang rason, no reason supposedly for violence against women.
Yeah,
but it
I think
increased.
it's also because the pandemic actually locked down people. So even reporting, even asking for help, even simply from neighbors was really difficult during that time. And I imagine the rise in the cases of VAWC in our country.
Yes, I even was witness to more cases here in the barangay diri sa amon, no, sa Mandaue. Damo sang nag-report. Maayo lang nag-report man sila. Even with the difficulty of reporting during a lockdown, gid sila, nag-report sila. And also, it's good that the barangay health, the barangay VAW desk officer was always present to attend to the victims.
Okay. Okay, here's one question. I want to become a gender champion, but is there a group in the city or province where I can join?
Depende, where are you based? I think all cities and provinces have gender advocates and have organizations of women who are advocates on gender. So it would depend on which LGU are you based in. In Bacolod City, for example, ara ako si Mate with Mate because I'm based in Mandaue and I cannot go home because of the lockdowns. There is the
CW.
PCW, the Provincial Council for Women in Negros Occidental, headed by Attorney Andrea Lizarisi and Ara Mandira si Miss Marie June Castro, no, who is now also an executive assistant of Governor Lacson.
Yes. Okay. Through the years, we have passed several laws to protect women. However, as you've mentioned earlier, this is not fully implemented. What do you think is the problem?
It is not only one factor. I think it's a myriad of factors, no? LGUs, for example, who are tasked to implement, for example, the barangay VAWC desk, no? Barangay VAWC desk. They are lacking in resources also, and they lack the capacity to to provide the services because some of them are also lacking in trainings, lacking in resources. For example, wala sa mga salakyan because you have to ferry some of these victims, for example, in going to the court, no, to file their cases. May ara man nga, of course, in some agencies, masiling ta siguro, may ara nga kapoy sila because of so many laws and few resources, no? And ako naluoy man ko, for example, sa DSWD, no? Because most laws pertaining to women would be lodged, no, sa ila, for example. Reporting, etc. So, kulang ang mga tao, kulang ang resources, kulang sa budget. But again, maybe also, it's also the community's lack of involvement and engagement.
Yes.
No? Kay kung ang community, do sa wala man lang, ang implementers, syempre masiling, do sa wala man lang to no? So, pawala lang. But if communities, if people, the constituency are engaged, no? Engaged, then I think implementation would really be, more full.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have other questions at this point? So, kadamo to kagina sa mga insights, no? Before we go to, I don't know if there's still another question, but you raised a lot of insights. But let me also just stress na it's not just the disparity between women and men, no? Even ang stereotyping even among other groups, no? Like the gays, no? They are being stereotyped as parlorista, comedian, not the talents and skills that one has gained through education and training, but because they are being stereotyped in a specific specific mold. So okay, kadamo nagigman to some questions. Right now there are no more questions. I'll give back the floor to NOLITC. Thank you very much, Celia. That was very very interesting, very engaging. Thank you.
Thank you for moderating.
Thank you very much to our expert speaker, Ma'am Celia Flor, and to our moderator, Ma'am Mate Espina. We would like to express our most profound appreciation to you for imparting your knowledge and skills to this webinar topic. Let us give them a virtual round of applause. Thank you so much. Now, we move on to the awarding of certificate to our resource speaker and to our moderator. Right. The certificate reads, Provincial Government of Negros Occidental, Negros Occidental Language and Information Technology Center, or NOLITC, present this Certificate of Appreciation to Ma'am Celia Flor as a gesture of our gratitude for her commendable service and for the valuable expertise she shared as our expert speaker for this afternoon in Gender Awareness and Sensitivity webinar given this 7th day of December 2020 in via YouTube and Facebook live stream, signed by NOLITC's Vocational School Administrator, Dr. Maria Cristina B. Arbicido. Ma'am Celia, thank you so much. And yes, the same certificate is also given to our moderator, Ma'am Maria Esther L. Espina, as our gesture of gratitude for her commendable service and valuable expertise she shared as our moderator in the same topic, given this 7th day of December 2020 via YouTube and Facebook live stream, signed by NOLIC's Vocational School Administrator, Dr. Maria Cristina B. Arbicido. Thank you
Thank you
very
for
much.
this. Thank you, NOLITC.
Yes, Mamate, thank you so much. And again, at this point in time, let us bring back our moderator, Mamate Espina, for her synthesis and a recap of the topic.
So I actually took down notes, no, just for the record, lest I be accused of not taking down notes. And I really wanted to synthesize the whole presentation of Celia because I learned a lot. There were a lot of insights, but I'd rather leave you with this because the talk of Celia actually reminded me of a poem by that will help us change our mindset, no, that the 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 responsibility does not solely be left on the male to be more understanding of women, but also for us women to fight to change our mindset and reach that equality status that we really want. And this poem is written by Nancy Smith, and it's called "For Every Woman." And I hope that you will really like this, no? And it goes like this. For every woman who is tired of acting weak when she knows she is strong, there is a man who is tired of appearing strong when he feels vulnerable. For every woman who is tired of acting dumb, there is a man who is burdened with a constant expectation of knowing everything. For every woman who is tired of being called an emotional female, there is a man who is denied the right to weep and be gentle. For every woman who feels tied down by her children, there is a man who is denied the full pleasure of shared parenthood. For every woman who is denied meaningful employment and equal pay, there is a man who bears full financial responsibility for another human being. For every woman who was not taught the intricacies of an automobile, there is a man who was not taught the satisfaction of cooking. And for every woman who takes a step towards her own liberation, there is a man who finds that the way to freedom has actually been made a little easier. And I leave you with that thought, no, that it goes both ways. This is not just a battle of women gaining their rights, but gaining recognition and gaining equal grounds with men, but also a battle for men to share responsibility uh, with tasks that we have stereotyped only solely for women. So with that, thank you very much again to our speaker. Thank you, NOLITC, and I hope you have had a productive gender afternoon. Salamat.
Thank you so much, Mama Ted. That's such a perfect way to cap this webinar with that poem. And thank you for sharing that to all of us. Moreover, we would like to thank our participants who are joining us virtually for staying with us up to the end of this session. A special shout out or greetings as well to Counselor Mayet or Haviliana of Bago City for joining us virtually. Hello, ma'am, and to the rest of the officials from the LGU Bago City. Hello, and to our participants as well. Thank you again for joining us in this very productive webinar afternoon. I also would like to emphasize how you can get a certificate for this webinar. Please provide us an evaluation after the end of this webinar session. The link to this online evaluation is provided in the description box. So please check that out. Do this right after the webinar ends. Your email address should be typed in correctly so that the email won't bounce back. The evaluation site will be opened up to 12 midnight only. So please don't miss that out. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes our GAD webinar number 9, and we will have another exciting webinar tomorrow. So catch again Ma'am Celia Flor as she talks about gender sensitivity, this time for men. But of course, women are very much welcome to join in this webinar. See you using the same platform that you are currently using, and you should be able to receive a link through your email address. So that's it, everyone. Stay safe and take care. NOLITC inspire, NOLITC cares, and avance negrense. See you.